Hey everybody, welcome to Will's Personal Development Show. Today I have a awesome guest, and I'm really excited here. So he's Dustin, not Justin, and he is the videographer for Gary Vaynerchuk. And we're going to be talking a lot of different things, kind of his career story, and then career tips on how he got his job with VaynerMedia and the famous Gary Vaynerchuk, and then also get into kind of like uh, Pokemon cards and all that other stuff. So, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on, Will.
So, I guess the first thing I want to kind of ask you, because I don't think many of our listeners are familiar, but can you tell us a little bit about like kind of like your life story? Like, how did you get from where you were to where you are now with your job?
Um, so I'm 35 years old, born and raised in New Jersey, and pretty much didn't have a really solid idea of what I wanted to do in my 20s. I went for a career pretty much purely for the money, as a applications developer in 2015 or 14, I forget. But had no computer science background, just kind of like fell into the job like through a friend, thinking, okay, maybe if I could just wing it and then make it through, I could just be successful in this. Realized I really didn't like it. Heard Gary Vaynerchuk, aka Gary V, on our local radio station in 2016, and just talking about like, the motivational, inspirational stuff that he says, just not living in the middle, as he likes to say, and decided to quit that job I was in and start from zero, pretty much. I quit. I just had some money saved, and I was able to make a little bit like side money through as an Uber driver, and I have this Instagram meme account for based off like Seinfeld. So I was making a little bit of money off that too. So then I decided to quit my job, try to pursue the YouTube thing as a vlogger, I guess you could say, or just a YouTube influencer or whatever you want to call it. Realized how hard that was, like not easy. I thought it would be way easier. Didn't realize how hard it was, and started just putting in work for that. Also still doing the Instagram meme account thing. And in 2017, applied for a job at VaynerMedia for Team Gary, working for Gary. Got rejected initially in October. I think that was like October 2017. Got rejected again, I think a couple months later after I tried again. And then finally in 2018, February, got a call back asking if like I could come in for an interview. Pretty much random. Like I didn't have any like special hookups or network or anything like that. It was a little bit of pure luck, to be honest. And went there in February. Met with Andy, which is our director of Team Gary V. Like he's pretty much our like in charge of everything for Team Gary, like everything brand related to Gary. And gave me a homework assignment the next day. I filled it out, or I finished it, sent it back, never heard from him. And then I just thought I screwed up. So then I was like, okay, I guess I'm a failure. And then just kind of like moved on with my, kept doing the YouTube thing. So that was like a total of 2 years of doing the YouTube thing. Then finally in June of 2018, Andy just called me one day randomly out of the blue and just was like, hey, are you still interested in the job? And I said, yes. He said, can you start tomorrow? I'm like, sure, I guess so. And then just went the next day and just worked as hard as I could, because like I really like that was pretty much my goal. Like I thought, if anything, like if my YouTube thing doesn't go well, at least I'll have like the experience or something, like a portfolio to like show that I'm a videographer, and then maybe I could one day be a videographer for Gary. And somehow pulled it off, like, in like 2.5 years. A little bit of luck, but a lot of hard work also. and definitely won't say it was easy. It was really hard. A lot of self-doubt too. Wasn't sure about myself if I could even do it. But yeah, I just put in a lot of work, and now I'm been there for about 2.5 years now, and it's been a crazy experience. Really love it. Planning to stay with Gary forever, and yeah, just every day is different. Just learning new stuff, and that's pretty much it.
Wow, that's very inspiring. Like you went from, not liking your job as much, to seemingly like really liking your job and getting that dream job. And it speaks to a lot of things. You definitely had your trials through this, self-doubt, but you didn't give up the first time you were rejected and you kept at it. So that props to you. And of course, you have to point to a little bit of luck involved too. So in terms of like getting to where you are now, like how much happier are you? Like, is it just like night and day?
No, it's yeah, like night definitely like it was a complete switch, but it didn't happen overnight. Like I was very I've been always stressed, and like I guess before I started working there, I was definitely in this state of like unknown and not sure if like what's gonna happen. Like I really didn't have a lot of like that like believing in myself type of thing. Um, I just pretty much had no other choice. Like I didn't want to give up, but it was also a balance of like not wanting to give up, but also just wanting it faster. And it was just really hard to like take in all that because especially with like outside influence, I guess. Like my parents were just like, "What the hell are you doing?" My family was and friends were just like, "What? Like you what are you doing with this?" Like, and like I always envisioned it like if I have to do this for 10 years to make it be like something, become something, I'll do it for 10 years. I don't care. But I guess no one else really saw it like that. So that's one thing that was really tough just because like it felt like nobody believed in me. And it was really hard to like still keep going in that sense. Um, but yeah, definitely way happier now. I mean, I wasn't even sure, like like that first year I just kept thinking, oh my god, I'm gonna get fired. Like I just had no confidence in myself that like I just knew what I was doing because I didn't have like real world experience. Like I was pretty self-taught. I just learned everything off YouTube for the most part. Just looking at tutorials on YouTube, and yeah, it like just but yeah, just so much happier because I mean, it's doing. I realized like this is exactly what I want to do. Like there was a time when I was in that 2 year period of YouTube where I was like editing a lot, and I realized like that's where I really liked being, just editing. Like I was like, this is where like I'm not stressed. I feel like these like 8 hours go by from an edit, and I'm just like, oh wow, 8 hours just went by. Like it felt like 1 hour. Like it was just a place where I felt like I belonged, and that's when I really like became self-aware that like this is what I wanted to do, like nothing else. Like I don't even care about the money anymore. I just like this is what if someone will pay me to do this, I'll be glad to do it. So like that was like I guess the realization of that.
Yeah, and I want to kind of so I feel like there's a lot of young people who are kind of in that early stage listening, and so kind of just to tip our hats to them. Like how do you think you went from that stage of where self-doubt and uncertainty and maybe like not even knowing what your passion is to where you are now, which I assume you've gotten a bit more confident in yourself.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm still working on it to be honest, but yeah, definitely better. Um, like I said before, a lot of it had to do with having no other choice because like I really like I couldn't go back to my old job, and that wasn't a possibility. I could have
Did you
gotten
quit?
another. What's up?
Did you quit your job? And
Yeah, I left on my own. I didn't get fired because I thought I was going to get fired anyway. Because like it was just one of those really cliche things where like I was doing nothing there and was like really like watching my back. Like I felt like I had to like I was like on the computer and like watching my back, waiting for like the boss to come around to be like, "What are you doing?" And I just had to like pretty much give him a BS answer. And I just hated that feeling of like not like pretty much having to lie, be like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. And I just really hated that feeling. So that's why I had to quit. But yeah, I mean, I didn't feel like, oh, I like I said, I couldn't go back to that job because one, I didn't like it. And two, they wouldn't take me back anyway. So I really had no choice. But I mean, I could have just gotten like another job, like just like, working at like Walmart or something like that. But there was a little bit of pride also where like I felt if I did that, I would be less focused on what I'm trying to do. But I think a little bit of that was just my ego and not also just like, kind of the embarrassment of having to like do that, like go to that level. Not saying there's anything wrong with that. Just, it was just like, I didn't want to, I guess, have to do that. I mean, it could have been, it was a slight, half of it was like just an excuse of not wanting to. And half of it was like really thinking if I start doing something else, I felt like I was going to start going on the wrong track of just like not focusing on the track I wanted to go on. So it was tough, having to just balance that in my head. And it like definitely took a toll on my mental health.
gotcha. Yeah, and now you got the job, so congrats on that.
Thank you.
And so yeah, that's definitely a tough situation to be in. And it also speaks to kind of like the fear that people have that it's too late. And you said you were 35, so it's just because you're not in your 20s anymore, it just goes to prove that it doesn't mean it's too late to switch
Yeah.
careers or whatnot.
Yeah. Especially if it's nothing like that requires like super physical activity. Like, I mean, so like for what I was doing BMX and I felt like there's not too many people in their 30s that are like professional BMX riders. I mean, there are, but like it's definitely a young man's sport. So if you're listening right now and you're not trying to do something where it's like you really physically need to be like young, so to speak, like a UFC fighter or something like that, then yeah, you have so much time to do anything you want. You can start being an artist at 40. It doesn't matter. Like, who cares what anyone else thinks? As long as it's really truly what you like doing and you think there is a way that you can make a living off of it. If someone else can do it, then you can probably do it too. And a lot of that is having to figure out how to do that. Like, you can't just be like, okay, I'm going to start drawing and people are going to pay me. Like, it doesn't work like that exactly. Like, you have to figure out exactly how the business of that works. I mean, that's one great thing about the internet though. Like, you can do that though. Like, it is that simple where you can just go to YouTube and just start doing things and people might start watching you. It just all depends on your talent, your skill, and your patience, really. Like, you just have to really be patient about it. I mean, and I'm not saying that lightly. Like, that's tough. It's really hard. Trust me. Like, I've lived it and I know it's hard, but it's also something that Gary said also on the radio was just having that regret of not trying is just so much worse. And it really is. Like, I thought that like if I stayed at that job and just kept letting years go by, not even trying, I think that would have been worse. And then you're like really late. So it's like, you might as well do it now when you're like still relatively young. And I know people, even when I was 23, I felt old as hell. Like, I thought it was over. Like, I was like, oh my God, I got to figure out what I'm doing now. But like when I look at 23-year-olds now, I'm like, you guys are like babies, man. You got so much time to like figure out anything. Like you can do nothing for the next 10 years and it's like you're fine, you'll be fine. You could start all over. It as long as you're like not actually living on the street or something like that, where it's like you are struggling that badly. Like if you save your money, like you have time. And that's just something I think a lot of people just don't do it because, like, at least for me, like I felt like I couldn't do it because I felt like I cared about way too much about what people thought. My friends thought, like thinking I'm a loser or whatever. And if you're able to like handle that, where like you don't care about what anyone thinks, then you're good. Like you can just start going. Like you'll be fine. I mean, think about even Gary. He was still working at his dad's liquor store at like 33, and look where he is now. Like it's insane. It's just because he put in the work for it. Like it's crazy. Like that's all it is. Like work is just the most important thing.
Wow, yeah. That definitely gets me thinking. So uh just to be clear, did you when you quit, you had that period of time where you were basically looking for work, right? So how long did that last and like what did you do during that time? Was it always just kind of building your resume?
Um, so I wasn't really looking for work, so to speak. I only applied to like one other job because like so I always liked social media. I just felt like I was good at it and understood like at least Instagram, like I just understood a little bit better of like what people like on there. So that's what because like I have the Instagram account like I told you. And I grew it pretty well in my opinion. Like it's not like a million followers or anything, but like, I thought it was pretty well done for what it is. So like I feel like I understood Instagram or I just understood social media. So I was going after jobs that were specifically towards social media. I only applied to like maybe two other places during that period where I was unemployed. Um, but yeah, I still was hoping the YouTube thing was going to work out. So I was working on it that entire time. I just knew it was going to take I just realized it's going to take a longer time than I thought. I had like a false sense of security, I guess. But yeah, it's definitely like I just wanted to like I said, my plan was to like just work for Gary one day, and that was kind of like what I ideally wanted to do. I probably would if like someone else accepted me. I probably would have taken that job, but yeah, I mean, Gary is the one I wanted to work for, so it just happened to work out for me, and I couldn't be happier about it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it reminds me of something similar I went through when I was out of college, and I ended up I was working part-time at a country club and ended up uh, quitting that because I needed more time to apply to stuff. And it was, I mean, the stuff that goes through your head during that time, I would say a year and a half for me. I mean, it's tough. You know, you're thinking, oh, everyone else is getting jobs. They're gonna ask if I have a job,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't. So it was really stressful. And then I ended up, I could have kept my part-time job, but I really wanted to just kind of go all in and spend more time. And fortunately, it worked out for me, and I found something.
Nice.
Um, but moving on to like just kind of just parting career tips, like what do you think, for anyone else listening out there, what do you have for them as advice? Because it's not going to always be as smooth. Like some people listening they might not get that Gary offer, and they're looking at other options for what they have to do in that
Mm-hmm.
time.
Um, so I mean, every career or job is going to be a little bit different, but I mean, for me at least, with the whole videographer part, I would say try to build something for yourself because I'm pretty sure, like, I never actually talked to Andy specifically about it, but I'm pretty sure the fact that I had that Instagram account, that I built it myself, um, from zero. Like at the time when I think when in 2018, I think it had like around maybe like 250,000 followers. So I think this just having that, like the fact that that was mine, I built it, showed that, okay, this, I think he thought like, oh, okay, this kid kind of knows what he's doing. Like he has an idea of like how Instagram works. He obviously built something on its own, and the engagement on there was decent for, especially for a meme account. So I think my advice would be just be like, try to build something for yourself, whether it's a podcast, a YouTube channel, a photography account, just something that that shows that you worked on something. I mean, even a portfolio of like just photos or whatever on a website is good, but just something. You have to build something. I think that gives you a little bit more leverage, that you're pretty much able to give value to whoever wants to hire you. At least, I mean, I'm not sure how like some of the other people on our team got their job. Like as far as like, I don't know if they had what was on their resume, because I'm not part of hiring or anything like that. But from like, I've looked at some resumes of like videographers, and most of them, I'd say, were able to build something. Like they had like a website or something where they had some videos that they shot or edited and stuff like that. So they had something to show that they knew how to do stuff. But if you don't have that, I would say, you know, just networking is a big thing too. Like, just knowing people, like not using people, like really being like this, even us, like now we have a closer relationship now. And if you needed something, I would probably be like, hey, I'll see what I can do, like versus a stranger that I don't know. Like it's the chances of that person, of me helping them out, are a little bit lower than you now because I know you. So I think just knowing people is a big thing. Being friends with people. So yeah, that would be my advice. Just try to either build something on your own, or if you're a real extrovert, try to be friends with a lot of people and just try to like get to know people and just have people like you and be a good person and stuff like that.
Awesome. Gotcha. So I have one more question before we shift into Pokemon. So I'm curious, what is it like working at VaynerMedia? Like, is it a workaholic culture? Like, is it like maybe too stressful at times, or is it really like you're the heaven on earth type of thing?
Like a little bit in between. Like it's hard work. Like, well, so VaynerMedia is a little bit different than like Team Gary. Like we are pretty much a media agency just for Gary. Like that's what we do. Where the rest of the company does something similar, but for like companies, like big corporate companies. So our challenges are different because I mean, those companies, they don't have as huge demand, or like they're not putting out as much volume as like Gary does, because Gary's all about putting so much content out. And so we have a lot more to do. But at the same time, the VaynerMedia part probably has a lot more legality issues, like stuff like that they have to work with like their clients. So it's a different thing pretty much. But so I never really worked on the media side. Like I've helped out some people in the agency side. I'm sorry, that's why I'm an agency side. But I never actually like worked really in depth like on any client stuff like that. So I can't speak for that. But at least on Team Gary, I mean, it's pretty much a 24-hour job. Not exactly, but like we're pretty much on call for Gary when he needs something or wants something. And it's not that stressful. It's just it's a lot of work though. Like he wants to put out as much as possible. and he is our client, so to speak. So that's what the client wants. That's what the client has to get. So I mean, we just have to like put out as much as we can for him, and we're always testing things. I'm not too stressed out, to be honest. Like, I just have my own anxieties of like whether something like it's just my own creative anxiety, I guess. Just like if I'm happy about something that I made as far as editing, or when I'm doing Tea with Gary Vee, it's just a little stressful because I'm always paranoid that something's gonna break, or just people are gonna like all of a sudden bombard the chat or something like that. So it's not really like pressure from Gary. It's just like me kind of putting pressure on my own self. So that's a little bit different, but I never really like had to be, I wouldn't consider myself a workaholic. Like I have time to do my stuff. Like I went bike riding today, and like I still do put out my own YouTube stuff like after hours. So I wouldn't say like workaholic, but it's definitely hard work. Like it's definitely a different job than any other job I've ever had. But I do love it. Like I don't hate it. It's just, I mean, video work's different also because, things take a longer time to do versus, I don't know anything else, like just making purchase orders or something that can be done a little bit easier. But yeah, video work is always a little bit tougher because it just takes more time.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, moving on to Pokemon. I'm a huge fan of Pokemon. Have been for ever since the first video games.
Nice.
And still a huge Pokemon Go fan. So have a little bit of a following on there on TikTok.
Oh, cool.
And so when I saw Gary start talking about sports cards, it intrigued me, but it didn't pull me in. And then I saw a clip from Gary, and he said like he told this other guy like, oh, if you're into Pokemon, that's maybe even bigger. And that really intrigued me. I'm very into investing and all that stuff. So that's how I got into Pokemon cards. I think that's how I found you. And so can you tell me about kind of your kind of journey with Pokemon card collecting? Like how did it start and where it is now?
So unfortunately, I'm not a diehard Pokemon fan, or I wasn't. Like I never played the video game. I tried to watch the cartoons when I was a kid, but it was on so early in the morning that I just couldn't get it and watch it on time. Or I think maybe it started late actually, and then I had to go to school already. So I was like, oh, I can't be late for school. So I didn't get to watch it. I didn't play Pokemon Go either when it first came out. I remember going to the park and seeing a lot of people there though. So then I think right before the pandemic, Gary was still talking about sports cards, and I think he was just starting to like look into Pokemon. So Lou on our team, he also does like the Card Talk podcast. And he was also talking about, hey, you should be getting Pokemon cards right now. And I thought about it, and I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't really understand it. So then I kind of just blew it off. But then during the pandemic, I think on a Tea with Gary Vee episode, Gary was always just pushing me like, hey, did you buy any sports cards yet? I'm like, no, because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Like, I don't know anything about sports. So I'm like, I just didn't even know what to do. But then, I mean, I was contemplating buying a LeBron James card, but I was like, $7,000. I mean, yes, it's worth a lot more now, but I was like, I couldn't justify spending $7,000 on a card. So I didn't do that, even though that was a mistake. But he said, look into Pokemon cards then. So then I started doing research on it, I think in early June, just going on YouTube, looking for cards, or looking for information on cards. Luckily, my girlfriend is a huge Pokemon fan, has been like since the video game first came out, and she had cards here. So then I took a look at them. I just was like, I don't even know what I'm looking at here. So I just went to YouTube, searched like how to tell the value of Pokemon cards or something like that. And then I just happened to find this one video that showed the differences between the 1999 cards. So then I watched that video really closely, started looking at her cards. I'm like, oh, we got nothing. And then just kept watching the videos on YouTube, started going down the rabbit hole of like trying to learn what cards are valuable, started watching like people opening old packs. And I started just understanding like, okay, like this is what's valuable. But being like a casual Pokemon fan, I just personally liked Charmander, Bulbasaur, and Squirtle and Pikachu because those are the only ones I knew at the time. And I just decided, I think like in like a month later, to buy a Squirtle, a PSA 10 first edition Squirtle. It cost $600 at the time, and I thought that was extreme, but I wanted a PSA 10 because I figured I want a perfect 10 card, which now I think that card is selling for about $1,600, which is really awesome. And yeah, after I bought that card, I kind of just started getting obsessed with like buying. I bought like the main four, or actually just three. Like I bought a Pikachu, Charmander, and Squirtle. Bulbasaur was just really hard to find at the time, and I just saw this prices just start skyrocketing. Like in I think the middle of July, or I think maybe towards the end of July, starting into like August, just prices just started going crazy. I was like, oh my god! So I just started buying like anything I could find. Like I just started like searching, and if there was like a buy it now price that was good, I just bought it real quick. Or I made offers. I just started lowballing everybody. I just started like messaging them on eBay and just be like, yo, will you take 400 for this? And then they're like, yeah. And they're like, cool. So then just started buying as much as I could. I've recently been selling. I probably spent about $6,000 altogether on all my cards. Recently sold maybe 7 or 8, and I made like 4,000 back. So I'm like happy that I'm evening out. But yeah, that's my Pokemon journey.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like for me, I got into them kind of hesitantly, and then like if I knew if I was going to get into it, I do a ton of research and really get into it. So I was teetering on that for a while, and then I went in, and then of course there's that rabbit hole of videos, and now I know a lot more about it. I watched your podcast episode on it, and
Thanks.
a lot of others. You know, all the big YouTubers and small YouTubers. So it's very interesting. And I've been buying as well, but it's, you know, I'm not always completely confident. Like I don't know if prices are continue to rise, because this year has been kind of ridiculous. Like the prices have just been going up maybe too much. Like I don't know if it's a bubble or what. So like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, have you been selling to get out, or are you selling to reinvest into more?
A little bit of both. Like there's certain cards I have that since I bought them, they haven't gone up at all. And I was like, oh, so I just kind of want to like break even on those. So I've been trying to sell them for like either the same price I bought it for or a little bit higher than what I bought it for, just so I could like make some money back. But I also just wanted, it was a little bit of just me wanting to see some money out of this, because I didn't want to, like you said, I was a little bit worried that there was like going to be a bubble. I was also, so I just didn't want to like completely lose everything that I've paid for. So I just started selling things that have like at least doubled or quadrupled, or not quadrupled, tripled in price, just so I could have a little bit of money back. And but I'm still holding onto my precious ones, I guess you could say, that I think will hopefully rise, or even if they don't, like I'm okay with it because I didn't pay too much for them, like at least in the big picture. So it's definitely tough, like to like figure out I mean, this is a gamble. I mean, all of this is gamble. So is the stock market, though. When you think about it, like it's like nothing's really a guarantee. So yeah, like but then when I do see good deals, like I recently bought. Well, I mean, they haven't really done well, but I thought I saw good deals so I started buying like shadowless red cheeks Pikachus because I was thinking the first editions, the prices are just way too high, where like a normal person isn't going to probably spend that much money on a Pikachu card, where they might on a shadowless, which is kind of like the second tier of the 1999s, and they were fairly low price, so I figured I'd just buy a couple of those. They haven't really gone up, to be honest, but they've pretty much stayed the same. And then once in a while, if I see like a Bulbasaur PSA 9 first edition, I'll probably buy it just because like I remember it was just so hard to find those. But there's some people getting rid of theirs now for like cheaper than what I paid for, which kind of sucks. But yeah, it's a gamble. I just have faith in some of those cards though that they will come back, at least like rise back to price wise, just because they're first edition and they are like the main characters or whatever. Because like I remember then I bought an Onyx recently, or not recently, a while ago, for pretty cheap. I sold it recently for like twice as much, and that one was really tough because it was like I always liked Onyx because I thought this Pokemon's huge in the cartoon. Like, how does it not kill everybody? It's just gigantic. And nobody else thought that, I guess. So like for a while, it was only like $70 or something like that for a PSA 10. And then all of a sudden it started going up. And then I sold mine recently for like $350. I think I paid like $140 for it. I forget. So then yeah, like it's hard. Like it's definitely difficult to like tell which cards are gonna be like winners or not. I mean, but just looking, what I do is I just look at completed prices and stuff like that, and just see the trends of the pricing, how much people are paying for it on the average, not just a single person. And yeah, it's definitely a lot of research and definitely a lot of like you got to keep your eyes open. But as far as like reinvesting in, I haven't been too much. I've been selling more, or I tried to been selling more. But yeah, I am holding on to a couple that I just want to hold on to because I'm hoping they're like gonna go nuts one day.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because I think, there's definitely cards that like you or I might really value, but like maybe the market doesn't see that card the same way.
Yeah.
And I've I've just been holding, but like some things I've been like, yeah, that was probably a mistake. Like I bought a first edition Poliwag from the base set, and no one really likes Poliwag.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I bought it honestly because it was cheap and like it was first edition base, like first ever print run. So like now, like some cards, like I'm more of like I'm gonna hold it for the long term because I feel like it's still such like I think there's gonna be some value, but like you never know for sure. It's dependent on someone paying a higher price in the future, and I don't feel like a guarantee with any of that. But I definitely feel more certain with like certain cards like a Charizard or like a booster box because they're just such classics. So like what are your like most precious cards that you said you were holding, or like what are just your favorite cards that you have?
I guess my favorite is the first one I got, the PSA 10 first edition Squirtle, just because it's the first one I had. The value on it's pretty good. I also like I have a PSA 10 Charmander also. For some reason, Charmander is just always expensive. I don't know why. I don't understand it. But
I think they want to complete the set. Once they get the Charizard, they want the
like
other two forms.
all the other fire Pokemon, probably. I guess so. I mean, that's where I think your Poliwag might come into play maybe one day, because like I remember watching that video of like Justin Bieber, like he had every single first edition card framed or something like that.
Yeah, true.
So then there's going to be those people that do want every single card, even if it is a Poliwag or whatever. Like they just want every single one. So I think there is hope for it. It's just that those are going to be a little bit of a rare occasion where like they might have already bought it by now. So I wouldn't lose hope, but definitely wouldn't buy another one. Like I wouldn't buy another Poliwag. But yeah, I wouldn't lose hope on that one. And seeing, I think it was Logan Paul recently bought that booster box for like 200K. So it's interesting because like I was losing kind of hope for a while, where I was like, because I just saw like some decline in pricing on certain cards, and I just thought maybe like the hype has kind of ended. I wasn't sure, but then like that